The golden rays of dawn spilled across the Mackenzie farm, painting the weathered red barn and endless cornfields in a warm amber glow. This was Lily Mackenzie's favorite time of day. At 10 years old, she'd already developed an appreciation for these quiet moments before the rest of the world stirred to life. She sat on the worn wooden steps of the farmhouse porch, her auburn hair still tousled from sleep, watching as the sun crept higher into the sky. The Mackenzie farm had been in the family for 4 generations, a testament to resilience and tradition in the heart of America's Midwest. The sprawling property featured rolling fields of corn and wheat, a modest vegetable garden that provided most of their produce year-round, and a menagerie of animals that had become Lily's closest companions. "Time for chores! Lily!" Her mother, Elizabeth, called from inside the house. The familiar routine beckoned, and Lily rose with a stretch. Her faithful border collie, Comet, bounded to her side, tail wagging in anticipation of their morning ritual. "Come on, boy," Lily said, scratching behind his ears. "Let's get started." Their first stop was always the chicken coop, where 24 Rhode Island Reds clucked and pecked impatiently. Lily scattered feed across the ground, watching with amusement as the chickens scrambled for their breakfast. Next came the goats, 3 mischievous Nubians named Peanut, Butter, and Jelly, who immediately attempted to chew on the hem of Lily's overalls. She laughed and gently pushed them away, refilling their water trough and providing fresh hay. The final stop on her morning rounds was the old horse stable, where Thunderbolt, the family's aging Appaloosa, awaited his breakfast and daily grooming. Despite his 23 years, the spotted horse still had a sparkle in his eyes and a gentle disposition that had made him the perfect companion throughout Lily's childhood. "Good morning, old friend," Lily whispered, offering him an apple from her pocket. Thunderbolt's velvety nose tickled her palm as he accepted the treat. She picked up a brush and began the methodical strokes across his dappled coat, finding comfort in the rhythmic task. Comet settled in the corner of the stall, keeping a watchful eye on his humans. Life on the Mackenzie farm followed the predictable cycles of planting and harvest, birth and growth, sunrise and sunset. Lily's father, Robert, managed the crops with a farmer's intuition passed down through generations, while her mother tended to the business side of operations and maintained their homestead. It was a simple life, but one filled with purpose and connection to the land. What Lily couldn't have known, as she went about her chores on that ordinary summer morning, was that the predictable rhythm of farm life was about to change forever. The universe had selected the Mackenzie farm for an extraordinary encounter, one that would not only transform their lives, but potentially the future of 2 worlds. That night, Lily tossed and turned in her bed, unable to fall asleep despite the exhaustion that usually came with a day of farm work. Something felt different in the air, a subtle electric charge that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. Comet sensed it too, pacing restlessly at the foot of her bed instead of settling into his usual spot. Just past midnight, as Lily was finally drifting off, a strange sound pierced the country silence. It was unlike anything she'd ever heard before, a high-pitched chittering that seemed to be a cross between birdsong and feline purring. She sat bolt upright, straining to hear. The sound came again, definitely emanating from somewhere near the barn. "Did you hear that? Comet?" she whispered. The dog's ears were perked, his body tense and alert. The chittering continued, now accompanied by what sounded like small thumps and scratches. Curiosity overcame caution. Slipping out of bed, Lily pulled on her rubber boots and a sweater over her pajamas. Comet followed closely as she tiptoed down the creaking farmhouse stairs, careful not to wake her parents. She grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and quietly unlatched the back door. The summer night was warm, with a bright three-quarter moon illuminating the path to the barn. The strange sounds grew louder as they approached, definitely coming from inside the old horse stable. Lily's heart pounded in her chest, but her curiosity pushed her forward. Comet growled softly, staying protectively close to her side. "It's okay, boy," she reassured him, though she wasn't convinced herself. They reached the stable door, which was slightly ajar despite her father's insistence on keeping it latched at night. Taking a deep breath, Lily pushed it open and shone her flashlight inside. At first, everything looked normal. Thunderbolt stood calmly in his stall, seemingly undisturbed by the commotion. But the chittering sounds persisted, now coming from an empty stall at the far end of the stable. Lily moved cautiously toward it, her flashlight beam dancing across the straw-covered floor. When she reached the stall and directed her light inside, Lily gasped, nearly dropping the flashlight. There, nestled in a makeshift nest of hay, were 4 of the strangest creatures she had ever seen. They were about the size of kittens, with sleek, scaled bodies that shimmered with iridescent colors when the light hit them. Each had a pair of delicate, translucent wings folded against their backs, small pointed ears, and intelligent eyes that reflected the flashlight beam like tiny golden lanterns. Their long, slender tails swished back and forth in agitation as they huddled together, making those unusual chittering sounds. "Dragons!" Lily whispered in disbelief. "Baby dragons!" As if responding to her voice, one of the creatures, with scales that shifted between emerald and sapphire, cautiously stretched its neck toward her. It made a soft trilling sound, almost like a question. "Where did you come from?" Lily asked, kneeling down at a safe distance. Comet whined beside her, but didn't bark, seemingly as fascinated as she was. The creature tilted its head, studying her with those uncanny, intelligent eyes. Then, to Lily's amazement, it took a hesitant step forward, wings fluttering slightly. The others remained huddled together, watching. "It's okay," Lily said softly. "I won't hurt you." The emerald dragon-like creature took another step, then another, until it was just inches from Lily's outstretched hand. It sniffed curiously. Then, in a gesture that seemed impossible for a wild creature, gently bumped its head against her palm. A jolt like static electricity passed between them, but it wasn't painful, more like a connection being established. Images flashed rapidly through Lily's mind, stars, swirling nebulae, a journey through darkness, fear, confusion, and hope. Then, as quickly as they had appeared, the visions vanished, leaving Lily breathless and stunned. "You're not from here at all, are you?" she whispered. The creature made another trilling sound, and Lily had the distinct impression it had understood her. The other 3 creatures were now cautiously approaching as well, each with scales that shifted in different color patterns, one predominantly ruby and gold, another violet and silver, and the last a shimmering pearl white with hints of pink. "I need to tell Mom and Dad," Lily said, though she was reluctant to leave the creatures. "Will you stay here? Please stay here. I'll be right back." As if understanding, the emerald creature settled back into the nest with its companions, all 4 pairs of golden eyes watching her intently as she backed away. "Come on, Comet," Lily said, her voice trembling with excitement and disbelief. "We've got to wake Mom and Dad. They're never going to believe this." The journey back to the farmhouse seemed to take forever, though it was only a short distance. Lily's mind raced with questions. Where had these creatures come from? Were they really dragons, or something else entirely? How had they found their way to the Mackenzie farm? Of all places. When she burst into her parents' bedroom, breathlessly trying to explain her discovery, Robert and Elizabeth Mackenzie reacted as any reasonable adults would, with concerned skepticism. "Lily, honey, you were probably dreaming," her mother said gently, glancing at the clock that showed it was nearly 1 in the morning. "It wasn't a dream," Lily insisted. "They're real, and they're in the stable right now. Please, you have to come see." "Dragons?" her father repeated, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Lily, there's no such thing as—" "Dad, please," Lily interrupted, her voice cracking with emotion. "I know what I saw. They're not exactly like dragons from stories, but I don't know what else to call them. They're small and scared, and they're alone, and they need our help." Something in her earnest plea must have reached her parents, because they exchanged a look that Lily recognized, the one that acknowledged their daughter's tendency toward honesty rather than flights of fancy. "All right," Robert sighed, reaching for his robe. "Let's go take a look. But Lily, if this is some kind of game—" "It's not, Dad, I promise." The family made their way to the stable, Elizabeth carrying a more powerful lantern than Lily's flashlight. Comet led the way, now seemingly excited rather than anxious. When they reached the stall where Lily had left the creatures, she held her breath, suddenly afraid they might have disappeared, that perhaps she had imagined them after all. But they were still there, huddled together in their nest of hay. As the lantern light fell upon them, all 4 pairs of golden eyes turned toward the humans, and a chorus of chittering sounds filled the stable. "My God," Robert whispered, his skepticism evaporating instantly. "What are they?" Elizabeth clutched her husband's arm, her eyes wide with wonder. "They're beautiful," she breathed. I told you," Lily said, unable to keep a note of triumph from her voice. "They're like baby dragons." The emerald creature, seemingly braver than its companions, again approached the edge of the stall, its eyes fixed on Lily. It made the same trilling sound she had heard earlier. "It recognized me." Lily said, "Dad, Mom, I think they're intelligent, really intelligent. When I touched this one, I don't know how to explain it, but I saw space, stars. I think they might be from somewhere else, somewhere far away." Her parents might have dismissed such a claim under normal circumstances, but the evidence before their eyes was impossible to ignore. These were no ordinary animals. Nothing like them existed in any zoology textbook or wildlife documentary. "What do we do?" Elizabeth asked, her practical nature asserting itself despite the extraordinary situation. "They look young. Do they need food? Warmth?" "Let's start with the basics," Robert suggested, his farmer's instincts kicking in. "Water, shelter, which they already have, and we can try various foods to see what they might eat. I want to stay with them tonight," Lily said firmly. "They seem to trust me, and I don't want them to be scared." Her parents exchanged another look, but nodded in agreement. Robert went to retrieve sleeping bags and supplies, while Elizabeth helped Lily set up a more comfortable space in the stable where she could keep watch over their mysterious visitors. That night, under the watchful eyes of Thunderbolt and Comet, Lily maintained her vigil. The creatures became more comfortable with her presence, eventually venturing out of their nest to explore the confines of the stall. Lily observed that they moved with surprising grace, their wings occasionally fluttering when they jumped from one level to another. She tried offering them various foods, bits of apple, carrots, some chicken feed, and even a small piece of bread. They sniffed at each offering curiously, but showed no interest until she presented a bowl of water with some honey mixed in. This they lapped up eagerly with forked tongues, making contented humming sounds. "You like sweet things, huh?" Lily smiled. "I'll remember that." As the night deepened, the creatures grew tired and returned to their nest. To Lily's surprise and delight, the Emerald One, whom she had started to think of as Cosmos for the space images she had seen, curled up next to her sleeping bag, radiating a gentle warmth like a living hot water bottle. "Good night, Cosmos," she whispered, carefully stroking its iridescent scales. "Good night, all of you. You're safe here." The following days were a whirlwind of discovery as the Mackenzie family adjusted to their extraordinary houseguests. They converted the empty stall into a comfortable habitat, with soft bedding, climbing structures made from old branches, and plenty of space for the creatures to practice using their wings, which they did with increasing frequency. Through careful observation and intuition, Lily discovered more about their needs and abilities. They thrived on a diet of honey water, supplemented with various fruits and, surprisingly, certain types of flowers. The ruby gold one, whom Lily named Ember, had a particular fondness for snapdragons and would carefully extract the nectar without damaging the blooms. The violet silver creature, now called Aurora, demonstrated an uncanny ability to manipulate small objects with its dexterous front claws, arranging pebbles in complex geometric patterns that change daily. The pearl white one, whom Lily named Luna, was the most vocal, developing a range of trills, purrs, and chirps that seemed to constitute a form of communication. But it was Cosmos, the emerald sapphire creature, who continued to form the strongest bond with Lily. When they touched, Lily occasionally received more flashes of imagery, stars, planets, and what looked like vast ships moving through the darkness of space. These visions never lasted more than a second or two, but they left Lily increasingly convinced that these creatures were not of Earth. A week after their discovery, the family witnessed something that removed any lingering doubts about the extraordinary nature of their visitors. Lily had brought the creatures outside for the first time, into a secure enclosure Robert had built in the yard where they could experience direct sunlight. All four immediately gravitated toward the garden, where Elizabeth's tomato plants were struggling after a dry spell. To the family's amazement, the creatures formed a circle around one particularly withered plant. They extended their wings, which began to glow with a soft blue light, and emitted a harmonious humming sound. Before the astonished human's eyes, the tomato plant straightened, its leaves turning from yellow to vibrant green, with new shoots visibly extending in a matter of minutes. "They're healing it," Elizabeth whispered in awe. "They're somehow giving it life." In the days that followed, the creatures demonstrated other remarkable abilities. When a summer storm threatened to flood part of the property, they guided the family to weak spots in the irrigation system before damage could occur. When Thunderbolt developed a painful hoof abscess, Luna placed her tiny claws on the affected area, emitting the same blue glow they had seen in the garden, and by morning, the swelling had disappeared completely. Lily spent every possible moment with the creatures, developing an unspoken language of gestures and sounds. They seemed to understand her words, even if they couldn't respond in kind, and demonstrated a level of empathy that surpassed many humans. When Lily skinned her knee after falling from the tire swing, all four creatures gathered around her, trilling in concern and gently touching her tears with their claws. It was during one of these interactions that Lily made another discovery. While cleaning the stall one afternoon, she moved a pile of hay and uncovered a small metallic disc, about the size of her palm, with intricate symbols etched into its surface. The disc was like nothing she had ever seen. It seemed to be made of a material that was neither silver nor steel, with a weight that felt both substantial and oddly light at the same time. When she showed it to the creatures, Their reaction was immediate and intense. All four crowded around, chittering excitedly and touching the disc with their claws. Cosmos looked directly into Lily's eyes and placed a claw first on the disc, then gently on Lily's forehead. Another flash of imagery flooded her mind, this time more coherent. A vast planet with rings like Saturn, but in blues and greens. A civilization of beings that walked upright but weren't quite human. And what appeared to be some kind of catastrophe, storms or explosions that tore across the landscape. "You're trying to tell me where you're from?" Lily gasped when the vision faded. "This disc is part of it, isn't it?" The creatures chittered in what seemed like affirmation. Lily carefully turned the disc over in her hands, noticing how the strange symbols seemed to shift and change depending on the angle of light. "We need to show this to someone who might understand what it means," she told her parents that evening, presenting the disc at the dinner table. "These symbols must be some kind of language." "Lily, we need to be careful," Robert cautioned. "We don't know what these creatures are or where they came from. If word gets out about them—" "Your father's right," Elizabeth agreed. "People might not understand. They might want to take them away, study them, or worse." Lily hadn't considered this possibility, and the thought of scientists or government agents taking Cosmos and the others filled her with dread. "But we need help understanding them," she protested. "And I think they need our help, too. Those visions I keep getting, they feel like they're trying to communicate something important." After much discussion, the family decided to reach out to just one person, their neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, a retired NASA engineer who lived in the farmhouse down the road. Mrs. Hargrove had always been kind to Lily, sharing stories of her work on space missions and encouraging the girl's interest in science. The next day, Mrs. Hargrove arrived at the Mackenzie farm, curious about the cryptic invitation. When Lily and her parents revealed their secret visitors, the older woman's scientific skepticism quickly gave way to wonder. "Extraordinary," she breathed, examining the creatures from a respectful distance. "They exhibit characteristics unlike any known species." When Lily showed her the metallic disc, Mrs. Hargrove's eyes widened. "May I?" she asked, holding out her hand. Lily hesitated, looking to Cosmos for approval. The creature made a soft trilling sound and nodded, a human gesture it seemed to have learned from observing the family. Mrs. Hargrove studied the disc with professional interest, her fingers tracing the strange symbols. "These patterns, they're not random. There's a mathematical progression here. And this material—" She tapped it gently against the wooden table. "It's like nothing I've ever encountered. The resonance is all wrong for any earth metal." "Can you help us understand what it means?" Lily asked eagerly. "I have some equipment at home that might help analyze it," Mrs. Hargrove said thoughtfully. "And I know someone at the university, a linguist who specializes in symbol systems. I can reach out to her discreetly." With Mrs. Hargrove's help, the Mackenzies began a careful investigation into the origins of their mysterious guests. The retired engineer introduced them to Dr. Eleanor Reeves, a veterinarian with a specialty in exotic animals, who agreed to examine the creatures after swearing to absolute secrecy. Dr. Reeves was astounded by what she found. "Their anatomical structure is unlike anything in the evolutionary record," she explained after conducting non-invasive examinations with portable equipment. "They have characteristics of both vertebrates and insects, yet their cellular composition—" She shook her head in amazement. "Their cells contain elements not found in Earth biology, and their body temperature fluctuates based on emotional state rather than environment." Meanwhile, Mrs. Hargrove's analysis of the disc revealed more puzzles. Under special lighting, Additional symbols became visible, a complex array that seemed to change depending on the viewer's perspective. She enlisted the help of Dr. Abigail Chen, the linguist, who began working to decipher the patterns. It appears to be a form of three-dimensional writing. Dr. Chen reported during a hushed meeting in the Mackenzie kitchen. Each symbol contains multiple layers of meaning depending on how light interacts with it. I've run comparative analyses with every known language and writing system, and there are no matches. This is completely unique. As the weeks passed, more pieces of the puzzle emerged. Mrs. Hargrove discovered that the disk emitted faint but measurable electromagnetic pulses at regular intervals. Using specialized equipment, she detected a pattern that corresponded to astronomical coordinates. "It's pointing to a specific location in space," she explained, spreading star charts across the dining room table. "A star system in the Kepler 186 region, about 500 light-years from Earth. Interestingly, NASA confirmed an Earth-like planet in that system's habitable zone several years ago." "You think that's where they're from?" Robert asked, looking at the creatures who were now comfortable enough to perch on the backs of kitchen chairs, observing the humans with their intelligent golden eyes. "It's a possibility." Mrs. Hargrove nodded. "But that raises more questions than answers. The distance is so vast. How did they get here, and why?" The investigation took an unexpected turn when Dr. Chen discovered a reference to Project Draco in declassified government files, a little-known research initiative from the 1980s that had reportedly detected unusual signal patterns from the same Kepler region. The project had been shut down due to budget constraints, but the fragmentary data suggested that Earth might have been receiving transmissions from that sector of space for decades. As the human adults pursued these scientific avenues, Lily continued to strengthen her bond with the creatures, particularly Cosmos. Their silent communication became more sophisticated, with Lily sometimes receiving complete scenes rather than just flashes of imagery. She began to understand that the creature's homeworld was in crisis, environmental collapse. She gathered, though the details remained unclear. There was a sense of urgency in these communications, a message that needed to be conveyed not just to the Mackenzie family, but to humanity at large. The opportunity to understand more came on a warm August night, exactly 1 month after the creature's appearance. Lily awoke to find Cosmos perched on her bedside table, trilling softly but insistently. The creature's scales were pulsing with blue light, creating patterns similar to the symbols on the disk. "What is it?" Lily whispered, immediately alert. Cosmos fluttered to the window, looking out at the night sky, then back at Lily. "You want me to follow you outside?" Cosmos trilled in apparent confirmation. Lily quickly dressed and tiptoed downstairs, finding the other 3 creatures waiting by the back door, all glowing with the same blue light. Comet was with them, unusually calm given the strange circumstances. Lily quietly woke her parents, and the family followed the creatures out into the yard. The night was clear, with thousands of stars visible in the rural sky, untainted by city lights. The creatures led them to the center of the open field behind the barn, then arranged themselves in a square formation, their wings fully extended and pulsating with increasingly bright blue light. "What's happening?" Elizabeth whispered, clutching her husband's hand. Before anyone could respond, a column of shimmering blue light appeared in the center of the formation, extending upward into the night sky. Within this column, flickering at first but gradually stabilizing, appeared what could only be described as a 3-dimensional projection, a hologram of a being unlike any they had seen before. The figure was humanoid but clearly not human, taller and more slender, with slightly elongated features, iridescent skin similar to the creature's scales, and large, expressive eyes. It wore what appeared to be a form-fitting uniform with insignia that matched some of the symbols on the disc. "Greetings, guardians of the Earth-born emissaries." The figure spoke in a melodious voice that seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly in their minds. "I am Ambassador Zorian of the Lumina Collective. We extend our profound gratitude for your care of our envoys." The Mackenzies stood frozen in astonishment, unable to formulate a response. Lily was the first to find her voice. You sent them here? Cosmos and the others?" The holographic figure smiled, an expression remarkably similar to a human one despite its alien features. "Yes, young one. What you call Cosmos is indeed one of our stellar emissaries, sent to your world as part of a desperate but hopeful mission." "What kind of mission?" Robert asked, finding his courage. "Salvation," Ambassador Zorian replied simply. "Both for our world and, potentially, for yours as well." The hologram flickered briefly, then stabilized as the ambassador continued. "Our civilization has existed for millennia in the system you designate as Kepler 186f. We evolved alongside creatures you might liken to your Earth dragons, the beings you have been nurturing. In our world, they are called Lumina Dracos, and they are not merely animals, but symbiotic partners to our kind, enhancing our connection to the natural world and to the cosmic energies that flow through all living things." The hologram shifted to show images of a beautiful world with soaring crystalline cities nestled among mountains and forests, where beings like the ambassador lived in harmony with adult versions of creatures like Cosmos, magnificent flying beings with wingspans of 20 feet or more, their scales shimmering with vibrant colors. "For centuries, our world thrived in balance." Zorian continued, the hologram changing to show darker scenes, violent storms, withering plant life, crumbling structures. But like many advanced civilizations, we made critical errors. In our pursuit of technology and expansion, we damaged the delicate equilibrium of our ecosystem. The consequences have been catastrophic, environmental collapse that threatens all life on our world. "So you sent these baby dragons, Lumina Dracos, to Earth. Why?" Elizabeth asked. "They are more than mere creatures," Zorian explained. "They are bioengineered emissaries, carrying within them the combined knowledge of our civilization and unique abilities to heal damaged ecosystems. Their genetic code contains solutions we developed too late to save our own world, ways to purify water, regenerate soil, rebalance atmospheric compositions, and accelerate the growth of healing plant species." The hologram shifted again, showing other locations on Earth, a rainforest in Brazil, a coastal community in Japan, a desert region in Africa, and several more sites across different continents. At each location, small groups of creatures similar to those at the Mackenzie farm were being cared for by local families. "You've sent them all over the world," Lily realized. "Yes," Zorian nodded. 20 groups of 4, strategically placed in diverse ecosystems and entrusted to families we identified as having the capacity for compassion and understanding necessary for this mission. "How did you choose us?" Robert asked, his voice a mixture of wonder and confusion. "We have been observing Earth for decades," the ambassador replied. "Our long-range sensors allowed us to assess suitable caregivers based on various criteria: ethical treatment of other species, connection to the land, capacity for discretion, and open-mindedness. Your family demonstrated all these qualities." "But what exactly is the mission?" Elizabeth pressed. "What are they supposed to do here?" "Two purposes intertwine," Zorian explained. "First, to preserve the essence of our world's unique biodiversity. The Lumina Dracos carry the genetic heritage of our planet's most resilient and adaptable species. By sending them to Earth, we ensure that something of our world survives, even if we cannot. The ambassador's expression grew more solemn. But equally important is the second purpose, to help Earth avoid the same fate. Your planet is following a trajectory distressingly similar to our own history. The Lumina Dracos are designed to serve as both warning and solution. They can demonstrate healing techniques for damaged ecosystems and, through their connection with their human guardians, share the knowledge we gained too late. Connection? Lily asked, thinking of the visions she had experienced when touching Cosmos. Yes, young one. The bond you have formed with the one you call Cosmos is the beginning of a deeper symbiotic relationship. As that connection strengthens, more knowledge and abilities will become accessible to you. All 20 Guardian families around the world are experiencing similar awakenings. A sleek silver spacecraft appeared in the hologram, hovering above what appeared to be the Lumina homeworld. In 3 of your Earth years, a ship will arrive to assess the progress of the mission and to establish formal diplomatic contact between our worlds, if any of our civilization remains by then. The Lumina Dracos will serve as the living bridge between our species. 3 years, Robert repeated. That's not much time to prepare humanity for first contact with an alien civilization, which is why discretion is advised for now. Zorian nodded. The knowledge should spread gradually, beginning with scientific and environmental leaders who can understand the significance of what the Lumina Dracos offer. Too sudden a revelation might cause fear rather than cooperation. The hologram began to flicker more persistently. Our transmission window is closing. We have limited energy resources to maintain this communication across such vast distances. Wait, Lily called out. How do we help them grow? How do we learn from them? Trust the bond that is forming, Zorian said, the holographic image becoming increasingly transparent. The one you call Cosmos has already chosen you as a primary guardian. Follow the guidance you receive through your connection. The disk you discovered contains additional information that will become accessible as your understanding grows. The ambassador's form was now barely visible, but the voice continued. You are not alone in this endeavor. The other Guardian families will be reaching out in time. Together, you form a network that can share discoveries and support each other. With a final surge of blue light, the hologram dissipated, leaving the Mackenzie family standing in stunned silence under the star-filled sky. The 4 Lumina Dracos, no longer mysterious creatures, but recognized emissaries from another world, folded their wings and gathered around Lily, chittering softly as if to reassure her. Well, Robert finally said, his voice unsteady. I guess we're part of something much bigger than a family farm now. Elizabeth nodded, her scientific mind already racing with implications. We need to document everything we've learned about them so far, their abilities, their needs, the way they interact with our environment, and we need to figure out how to tell people without causing a panic. Robert added, if these creatures really can help heal our planet, people need to know, but Zorian was right about taking it slowly. Lily knelt down, allowing Cosmos to climb onto her shoulder, a perch the creature had grown to favor. They chose us, she said softly, a sense of purpose filling her. They trusted us with their future. We can't let them down. In the days that followed, the Mackenzie family developed a plan. They would carefully document the abilities and needs of the Lumina Dracos while reaching out to select individuals who might help advance the mission. Dr. Reeves, who had been studying the creature's biology, agreed to bring in a trusted colleague from the university's environmental science department. Mrs. Hargrove continued her analysis of the disk, discovering that when placed in direct moonlight, it revealed new symbols that appeared to be instructions for nurturing the Lumina Dracos through various growth stages. 2 weeks after the holographic encounter, the family received an encrypted email from a marine biologist in Okinawa, Japan, one of the other guardian families. Soon, a secure communication network formed among the 20 families around the world, each sharing observations and discoveries about their Lumina de Dracos, who exhibited slight variations based on the ecosystems they had been assigned to. The Brazilian Guardians reported that their Dracos could accelerate the regeneration of rainforest plots that had been clear-cut. The family in Mali discovered that their Dracos could locate underground water sources and purify contaminated wells. The Australian Guardians observed their Dracos neutralizing toxins in areas damaged by mining operations. As August turned to September, Lily prepared to return to school with a new sense of purpose and an extraordinary secret. She and her parents agreed that she would continue her education normally while dedicating her free time to the mission. The bond between Lily and Cosmos strengthened daily, with the creature now able to convey more complex concepts through their mental connection. The other 3 Dracos, Ember, Aurora, and Luna, had formed their own special bonds with Robert, Elizabeth, and even Mrs. Hargrove, though none quite as strong as the link between Lily and Cosmos. The first real test of the family's discretion came when an unexpected visitor arrived at the farm, a government official from the Department of Agriculture conducting routine inspections of farms in the area. The Lumina Dracos were quickly hidden in a specially prepared space beneath the barn floor, accessible through a concealed trapdoor. The inspection passed without incident, but it underscored the need for continued caution. By October, the Dracos had grown noticeably, now the size of small dogs rather than kittens, with their powers developing accordingly. Cosmos could now heal larger plants and small animals with his touch, while Ember demonstrated an ability to purify water by circling above it with glowing wings. Aurora had developed a talent for predicting weather patterns with uncanny accuracy, and Luna could communicate with local wildlife, mediating between species that typically avoided each other. Through the Global Guardian Network, the Mackenzies learned that other Dracos were developing similar abilities, always tailored to the needs of their local environments. The families began coordinating small-scale ecological restoration projects, careful to attribute the remarkable results to new, sustainable technologies rather than revealing the true source. The scientific team supporting the mission had grown cautiously to include specialists from various fields, each carefully vetted and sworn to secrecy. They helped document the Draco's abilities and translate their techniques into terms that could be shared with the wider scientific community without revealing their extraterrestrial origins. In late November, a breakthrough occurred when Dr. Chen finally deciphered a critical section of the disk's symbols. The translation revealed instructions for creating a communication device that would allow the Guardian families to connect more directly with each other and, potentially, with the Lumina civilization across the vast distance of space. Working together with Mrs. Hargrove's engineering expertise and materials sourced discreetly through their growing network of allies, the Mackenzies constructed the device, a crystalline structure that pulsed with the same blue energy the Dracos emanated when using their powers. When activated by the presence of all 4 Dracos, it projected a 3-dimensional map showing the locations of all 20 Guardian sites around the world, with lines of energy connecting them like a global web. It's a network, Mrs. Hargrove realized. The Dracos aren't just individual healers, they're meant to work together as a planetary system. This discovery accelerated the mission. Using the communication device, the Guardian families coordinated synchronized healing rituals, with all 80 Dracos around the world focusing their energies on particularly damaged ecosystems. The results were remarkable. Coral reefs showing unprecedented regeneration rates, desertified regions experiencing the return of native vegetation, and polluted waterways, clearing at speeds that defied conventional explanation. Scientific journals began publishing papers on these mysterious environmental recoveries, attributing them to everything from previously unknown natural cycles to the success of local conservation efforts. Environmental organizations celebrated the positive changes while puzzling over their sudden and dramatic nature. By the 6-month mark since the Draco's arrival, the Guardian families faced a critical decision. The positive environmental impacts were becoming too significant to attribute to coincidence or conventional methods. More importantly, the Dracos were growing more rapidly now, approaching the size of large dogs, with abilities that were increasingly difficult to conceal. The time had come to begin the careful process of revealing the truth to the wider world. The Guardian Network developed a graduated disclosure plan, beginning with a scientific paper co-authored by specialists from their support team. The paper documented the discovery of a previously unknown species with remarkable bioremediation properties, carefully omitting their extraterrestrial origins but accurately describing their ecological benefits. Accompanying the paper were limited videos and photographs, showing the Dracos from angles that made them appear more like unusual terrestrial creatures than alien visitors. The scientific community's response was immediate and intense, skepticism mixed with excitement about the conservation possibilities. Research teams requested access to these creatures for further study, creating the first major challenge for the Guardian Network. Through careful negotiation, they arranged for limited scientific observation under controlled conditions, with the Draco's most overtly alien characteristics temporarily subdued through techniques they had learned from the disk. Government interest followed quickly. The Mackenzies found themselves hosting increasingly high-ranking officials from environmental agencies, carefully managing the narrative to focus on the Draco's benefits rather than their origins. Similar scenarios played out at Guardian sites worldwide, with the network coordinating their responses to maintain consistency. Not all reactions were positive. Some religious groups denounced the creatures as unnatural or even demonic, while extractive industries saw them as threats to their business models. Security became a growing concern, with several Guardian families reporting surveillance and even attempted intrusions. The turning point in public perception came unexpectedly. During a supervised demonstration of the Draco's abilities at a polluted river site in Michigan, a young child fell into the contaminated water before human rescuers could react. 2 Dracos dove into the water, using their powers to neutralize the toxins around the child while guiding her safely to shore. The incident was captured on multiple videos that went viral worldwide, showing the creature's intelligence and compassion undeniably. Public fascination replaced fear, and the Guardian families cautiously embraced their new public roles as stewards of these remarkable beings. The United Nations convened a special committee to coordinate global cooperation with what was still officially termed a newly discovered species with extraordinary environmental applications. Behind closed doors, however, the Guardians began sharing more of the truth with key world leaders and scientific authorities. The revelation of the Draco's extraterrestrial origins was met with shock, but the undeniable benefits they brought to a planet in environmental crisis outweighed concerns about their alien nature. An interspecies cooperation initiative was established under UN oversight, with the Guardian families serving as the primary interface between humanity and the Dracos. Research centers were constructed near each Guardian site, staffed by scientists who had been cleared to know the full truth and dedicated to translating the Draco's techniques into technologies that could be implemented on a larger scale. Through it all, Lily's bond with Cosmos continued to deepen, now nearly the size of a pony. With a wingspan of 12 feet, Cosmos had developed the ability to share his perceptions directly with Lily, allowing her to experience the world through his senses, seeing energy flows in plants and animals, detecting pollutants invisible to human eyes, and perceiving the interconnected web of life in ways human science was only beginning to understand. Lily herself had changed, growing from a shy farm girl into a poised young ambassador for interspecies cooperation. At just 10.5 years old, she had become an unlikely but effective voice for planetary healing, speaking to children's groups and educational programs about the importance of environmental stewardship, always with Cosmos by her side. The other guardian children around the world underwent similar transformations, forming a unique cohort that educational experts began referring to as the Bridge Generation, young humans with unprecedented insight into non-human and potentially non-Earth perspectives, who might one day serve as mediators between civilizations. 6 months after the Draco's arrival, as winter settled over the Mackenzie farm, Lily stood before the United Nations General Assembly in New York, the youngest person ever to address that august body. Cosmos, now too large to fit comfortably in the chamber, waited in a specially constructed pavilion outside. Connected to Lily through their mental bond, distinguished representatives of Earth's nations, Lily began, her voice steady despite the enormity of the occasion. 6 months ago, my family discovered what we thought were abandoned baby dragons in our horse stable. Today, I stand before you as a representative not just of humanity, but of a bridge between two worlds in crisis. As she spoke, images appeared on screens throughout the chamber, before and after shots of healed ecosystems, demonstrations of the Draco's abilities, and the first official acknowledgement of their extraterrestrial origins, including portions of Ambassador Zorian's holographic message. The Lumina Dracos came to us with 2 missions, Lily continued. To preserve something of their world, which faces environmental collapse, and to help us avoid the same fate. They offer us not just their abilities, but the wisdom of a civilization that learned its lessons too late. We have a chance they didn't, to change course before it's too late for our planet. She touched the pendant she wore, a small fragment of the original disc, now fashioned into a communication device that maintained her connection with Cosmos even at a distance. In 2.5 years, a ship will arrive from the Kepler 186F system. Its crew will assess what we've accomplished together and establish formal diplomatic relations between our worlds. What will they find? A planet still committed to practices that destroy our only home, or a civilization that had the wisdom to listen to the warning brought by the Dracos and change direction while there's still time. The chamber was silent as Lily concluded her address. The choice is ours. The knowledge is available. The helpers have arrived. All that remains is for us to accept the outstretched hand, or wing, of friendship and work together for the future of both our worlds. As she stepped away from the podium, the assembly erupted in applause. Through her bond with Cosmos, Lily could sense his pride and hope, emotions that transcended species and even planetary boundaries. Outside the UN building, Cosmos waited in the winter sunlight, his emerald and sapphire scales catching the light. When Lily emerged, he extended one wing in a gesture that had become their private greeting. She touched her hand to the wing tip, and in that moment of connection, they shared a vision of possibility, Earth and the distant Lumina world, both healing, both thriving, linked by the bridge they and the other Guardians had begun to build. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be resistance to change, skepticism to overcome, and the enormous challenge of transforming global systems before irreversible damage occurred. But as Lily looked into Cosmos's golden eyes, she felt a certainty that transcended her young age, a certainty born of the unprecedented connection between two species from distant stars. united by the universal desire for life to continue. "Ready for what comes next?" she asked aloud, though the question was unnecessary between them. Cosmos trilled softly, the sound carrying notes of both challenge and hope. Together, they turned to face the future they would help create, not just for humanity or for the Lumina, but for the precious miracle of life itself, wherever in the vast universe it might take hold.